Predict, pick, and prevail in your fantasy football leagues with Nick Giacobbe and Nick Cap. From breakouts to busts, superstars to sleepers, these are the guys that will help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome everybody to Season 2, Episode 37 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we help you prevail throughout Week 6 and the rest of the 2022 fantasy football season. I'm your host, Nick Giacobbe. Joining me is Nick Cap. Nick, it's going to be a good show. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I had to mute my mic to yell at my dog. Oh, Russ. His allergies are an issue, so he can't be biting his paws.
He's acting up just like that Russ from Denver.
Oh, he's acting up all right. If he acts up again on Monday night, he might be on your waiver wire pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Big Friday show. The Friday shows are already pretty big. Injury updates are all boom, all bust teams. And we end the show with a flex on them segment. Give you one player from each team for each game. We tell you which one we'd rather play in our flex spots. Basically talk about every flex player that we can possibly. But if we don't talk about your player, we do a Sunday show, 8:30 a.m. every single Sunday to prepare you for that upcoming week. We're doing it for Week 6. It's on our YouTube. It's on our Facebook. It's on our Twitter. YouTube and Facebook is PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Twitter is PrimeTimeFFPod. Make sure you join us this Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. There's no London game, so we might go a little bit longer than the normal 8:30 to 9:30. I know the Jets aren't home, so Nick doesn't have a Jets game to go to. So we can go a little bit longer. If you guys want to keep asking those questions, we'll keep answering them starting at 8:30. Don't miss it. Aside from that, if this is your first time listening to us, thank you so much. We do the show on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, with Fridays being our biggest show of the week. You can listen to the show on all audio streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. Really would appreciate that one. If you'd rather watch the show instead of just listening to it, go to our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Drop a like on this video if you're watching this video. Drop a like on any video that you do watch in the future. If you're watching the Sunday live, make sure you drop a like on that one as well. We would appreciate that. Please hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. Hit that little notifications thingy, so the little bell thing, so you get notifications for our channel. That is all stuff that we would definitely appreciate over here. Keep interacting with us on social media, Primetime FF Pod on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and then Facebook and YouTube is Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Okay, let's get to the news and injury updates. Just want to scroll down here. Where's our little news ticker thingy? Okay, here we go. News and injury updates. First off, I have some kind of breaking news for Nick. I'm sending Nick some screenshots of one of my fantasy teams, and I want to talk to him a little bit about this. I have made a trade that I did not talk to Nick about, so Nick is going to learn right here. So, do you have your phone pulled up? Do you have my team?
I do.
Okay. I have traded for Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
I traded the Supreme package of DeAndre Swift, Hollywood Brown, and Jacoby Myers for Justin Jefferson and Antonio Gibson. So I'm going to let Nick digest that, and I could let him give me a grade on the trade. Now, I wouldn't give myself an A. I want to explain this a little bit. I did give a pretty penny for Justin Jefferson, but with that said, the number one team in my league that I just lost to last week has Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Deebo Samuel, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. So my reasoning overall for this trade was the fact that I needed star power, and I needed guaranteed star power in my starting lineup if I'm actually going to combat this team for a chance at winning a championship. I did trade some pretty pieces away. I traded away a starting running back who's been on my bench for a couple weeks due to injury. Traded away a starting wide receiver, and Jacoby Myers, who is promising but hasn't started in my lineup yet. With that said, I'm still rocking with Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, and T. Higgins in my starting lineup. And as for the running backs, Damian Pierce is now my running back one, followed by Jeff Wilson, Melvin Gordon, Travis Etienne, Eno Benjamin, and Antonio Gibson, who I just traded for.
So, in my opinion, you definitely win the trade.
I don't think I even win it. I think it's an
win the
even trade. I think it's an even trade. I don't think I won it.
Let me explain why I think you win. So Jacoby Myers, I would not trust in your lineup rest of the season. Your other receivers are Cortland Sutton, Cooper Kupp, and T. Higgins. So he probably isn't breaking into that lineup unless it were for a bye week. You're trading Marquise Brown before DeAndre Hopkins comes back. He's probably at the peak of where he's going to be trade value-wise right now. You're trading for Jefferson. You lock in Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson on a week-to-week basis. I mean, your receiving core should average 45 to 50 per game for the rest of the year.
That's basically what I'm viewing it as just those two receivers alone should give me a chance to win every single week, and then with the rest of my lineup. I also traded for Kyle Pitts. I traded Gerald Everett for Kyle Pitts with my reasoning behind the fact that if Kyle Pitts is ever going to break out, this is the time to trade for him. I don't think he breaks out this week in a really tough matchup, but if he's ever going to break out, his value is as low as it's ever going to be. And if he doesn't break out, then Everett wasn't winning or losing me matchups anyway. I'll stream a tight end.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Pitts is a great trade for a candidate right now. And then at your running back position, I mean, Melvin Gordon, you'll have to lock in. Dameon Pierce will probably be locked in the rest of the season. Jeff Wilson will be played up until Elijah Mitchell gets back. You don't have the running back depth that I think you need, but I don't think it's too late to trade. You have so much depth, the star power. Like I think you could trade for another running back, an RB2, someone ranked between like.
I think I probably could,
and then you should be good rest of the year.
Anyway, I did want to drop that little bit of news and have some fun with that. I'm happy about it. I'm happy because I got Justin Jefferson. I've wanted him. I said before the season he was going to be my fantasy MVP. I clearly went to great lengths to get him, and I do hope it works out. But I'll have fun getting to actually root for him. So let's move on to the actual news and injury updates. Starting off with Michael Thomas's toe injury. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. He's definitely missed last week. I think he missed the last 2 weeks because he missed the London game too. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play against the Bengals. Chris Olave did return to practice today. I believe he's cleared concussion protocol, so Olave looks like a nice play where Michael Thomas is out. James Conner's out with a rib injury, and the report is that he could miss a couple weeks. If Eno Benjamin is on your waiver wire, go get him right now. If he's still there, probably isn't still there. We should have had him in a waiver segment on Tuesday. That is a big mistake by us, honestly. We make some mistakes. That's one that we did miss on, which is crazy because me and Nick both did pick up Eno Benjamin, and I think, are you playing him in a league? I think I'm going to play him in one of my leagues.
I have to take a look. I don't think
I might be playing him in one of my leagues. So. Harrison Butker's ankle returned back to practice as a full participant for the Chiefs. Keenan Allen returned to practice in limited fashion with the hamstring. Until he plays, I'm very weary of Keenan Allen. Mac Jones, second limited practice. I don't think he plays this week against the Browns, but that quarterback situation could become very interesting depending how Zeppi plays this week.
Yeah.
T. Higgins missed practice, I believe, again. I think he's missed Wednesday and Thursday now with the ankle injury. I don't think he's going to play, which sucks for one of my fantasy teams. That's not fun. Kyle Pitts practiced again in a limited fashion with a hamstring injury. He should play. And Dak Prescott, it was limited practice. First time since the injury. Cooper Rush should still play Sunday night. And if Cooper Rush wins, I think he's still the starting quarterback. So I wish I could tell you guys more, honestly, but we're recording Thursday night for a Friday show. We just can't provide any more information than that's out there at 8:00 on Sunday night. So your best bit of information is going to be going to Adam Schefter's Twitter account. And, if you start sick questions as of Sunday morning, we'll answer them 8:30 a.m. on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for our Sunday morning show. Let us now go to our Week 6 All Boom teams. We're going to do our predictions for every position that we would put on our All Boom teams. Nick, who is your All Boom quarterback for Week 6?
This should make the two of us happy. Mr. Seattle, Mr. Unlimited, Geno Smith. Absolutely.
Oh, man, I thought you meant Russell Wilson. All right.
No, Mr. Unlimited is still up in Seattle. He's the mobile quarterback over there. And he's been very good as a quarterback for regular football and for fantasy this year. The last 2 games were shootouts, and he put up absolute monster numbers. This week he has the Cardinals, who are one of the worst teams against the quarterback position. Rest of the season, I don't think he's going to maintain the success. I'll be honest. Sorry to break the news. I don't think Geno Smith is going to finish the rest of the year as a top 10 quarterback. But do I think in a shootout against the Cardinals? Yeah, I think Geno Smith is a must start over some of these other guys with tougher matchups this week.
I think we have to have a conversation at some point during the season. Maybe not yet, but when do we say that Geno's legit? And I think it's a conversation we're getting closer and closer to having. He's only one bad game was against the San Francisco 49ers, who have proven to be arguably the best defense in the NFL. Maybe. I mean, the Eagles are up there. The Cowboys look good. Geno's look good against every other team. I'm not telling you he's legit, but at some point that may be a conversation we have to have. I am going with Kirk Cousins this week, and I don't like Kirk Cousins like at all. I don't like. He lost me a matchup in week 2 in me and Nick's league that I really needed that win for. He almost lost me my survivor pool last week. I don't love Kirk Cousins, but I do love the matchup. Dolphins have given up the 11 most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Before last week, it was the 7th most. And Zach Wilson didn't play bad. That's not the reason why the Dolphins' average went down. It's because the running backs just hammered the crap out of them. It was the Breece Hall show. So I still don't think the Dolphins are good against quarterbacks. Aside from that, Kirk Cousins has 3 weeks out of the 5 over 18 fantasy points. One of the weeks he didn't was that horrendous game against the Eagles. So favorable matchup. Receivers look healthy. Team looks healthy. Dalvin Cook is starting to cook. Start Kirk Cousins this week if you need to. So, and I would start him over. And I don't want to spoil it, but there's a slew of quarterbacks I would start him over that you probably drafted a lot higher than him. Mm-hmm. Who's your running back start of the week? Give me your first running back start of the week.
Oh, Nick, I gave you something beautiful. I gave you a quarterback running back stack. I am taking Kenneth Walker in his first game as the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Last week, he got the majority of the workload once Rashad Penny went down. I think it might have been all of the workload. And he had 8 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Now, most of it came off of a big touchdown run. But the Seahawks tend to have a lot of those big touchdown runs. I know we've seen a lot of those Rashad Penny big breakaway runs in the past. Chris Carson, Marshawn Lynch. Like, we've seen the Seattle Seahawks continuously under Pete Carroll pound the rock, pound the ball, and succeed at doing it. I think Rashad Penny did look effective. He looked very good in his real debut last week. And I think he's going to do pretty well this week. Like I said, they're playing the Cardinals, not good against the run. And I do think it is going to be a shootout. This is a game I think can hit the over. Seattle back-to-back weeks in shootouts against bad defenses. There's no reason that it shouldn't be this week. And there's no reason he shouldn't have high touchdown upside, have high yardage, high volume. Like, Kenneth Walker is in the perfect situation. I think if he's an average NFL running back, he should have one of the top fantasy days just because of the situation in game script alone.
Alrighty, there's a big Monday Night Football matchup. We get the most prime time of all prime time teams on Monday Night Football. I just can't wait for the Twitter jokes at that point. With that said, do you know who's been limited in practice for the Broncos?
I do. It's Mr. Limited.
It's Mr. Limited. He's been limited with a shoulder injury that he's got an injection with. So for Mr. Limited and his team to succeed, they're going to have to lean on this running back, Melvin Gordon. Chargers are giving up the most fantasy points to running backs. I'm pretty sure Melvin Gordon's had double-digit fantasy points, I think in 3 out of 5 weeks. Maybe it's even 4. High touchdown potential. Chargers defense, it's horrific. Dameon Pierce had a breakout game against them like 2 weeks ago. This should be a really great game for Melvin Gordon. And if Nathaniel Hackett is smart, he's going to ride the hot hand of Melvin Gordon. But I don't know. Maybe he's got like 4 of the running backs he likes, since that's what he used to do with Javonte Williams. So I don't know. Anyway, start Melvin Gordon this week. He has a really, really favorable matchup, and he's a guy that could win you your matchup on Monday night. Who is your second running back start of the week?
I'm going with the guy that was questionable but did practice today. Looks like he is going to play. I'm going with Raheem Mostert. He's been absolutely awesome these past 2 weeks. He had 33 touches, 180 rushing yards, 3 catches, and a touchdown during both of those. And during Raheem Mostert's career, he's been very effective as long as he's been out on the field. Once he's healthy, he's in there, he's locked and loaded, and he's always delivered for fantasy. And I'm going to give Nick a little throwback. I don't know if this is going to give him a little bit of a pop, but in season 1, week 1, we called Raheem Mostert something. Do you remember what it was?
Was it must start?
Must start. Raheem
that's actually been stolen from Matthew Berry. I think that's a Matthew
It has been
Berry
stolen.
term.
He's been watching the PrimeTimeFFPod and stealing these takes.
Oh no, I think we stole it from him.
We take his news. We take his news from his app, so
anyway,
it's fine. We're good with you, Matthew Berry. But Raheem must start. Absolutely great matchup. Great opportunity. And he's pretty much been a 3-down back. So trust in him. Trust in that offense. Teddy Bridgewater, I believe, will be back if Tua is not playing. So sets up for a great game for Raheem Mostert.
So you want to laugh. I texted Nick my team yesterday, and I actually was going to slot in Brees Hall for Raheem Mostert, and I did not slot in Brees Hall, so my notes actually have Raheem Mostert in my flex spot. I will say this. Brees Hall is a great play this week. Packers defense is kind of stinky. I think Saquon had like 20 fantasy points last week against them. Dalvin Cook had a good game, so did Madison. So Brees Hall is a great play, but I'm going to pad the Raheem Mostert stats a little bit. Vikings have allowed the 11th most fantasy points to running backs. David Montgomery had 18 last week, and Mostert's coming off a 19-point week as the running back one. So on the graphic, Nick, you can still put Brees Hall, but I am padding the Raheem Mostert stats.
Sounds good.
But my actual second running back start is Ramondre Stevenson. The Browns have given up the third most fantasy points to running backs. Damian Harris went out last week, but he was practicing limited this week. I think Belichick just likes to tell these guys to practice in a limited fashion just to spook the coordinators and stuff, but he's not going to play. Ramondre Stevenson had 19 fantasy points last week. Should be a great game against the Browns. Should be the featured back. All it took was every other back on the Patriots getting hurt to allow their most talented running back to really get an opportunity here. So start Ramondre Stevenson. I did a flex. So anyway, who's your first wide receiver starter of the week?
I got a guy that's really proved me wrong so far this year. He's a guy that I was not high on. It's Hollywood Brown. Right now, he sits as the wide receiver 5 in all of fantasy football. Jeez. He's had 4 consecutive weeks of double-digit targets.
What dumbass would trade him? Man.
3 consecutive weeks of 20-plus points, and he's been kind of a monster and dominant for fantasy purposes. Seattle is a rookie cornerback. I know we don't talk about Seattle's defense much because they let up a lot of points, but Seattle's a rookie cornerback that's looked phenomenal, and he's been pretty shut down. But Marquise Brown's a speed demon, and there is not a lot of a pass rush coming off those Seattle edges. And Kyler Murray knows how to buy time for himself. So as long as Kyler Murray's buying time and you got a speedy receiver, he's getting open downfield. With this type of workload, with double-digit targets, with 3 consecutive 20-point games, and a game that I am forecasting to be a shootout, I'm sure it has one of the highest over-unders on the day. Brown's going to be the biggest benefactor of this success. He's going to put up a monster stat line. I don't know what it's going to look like when DeAndre Hopkins gets back. I do think he's going to look a lot more like this than my preseason take on him. But for right now, I mean, there's no reason that you should be benching him. You should expect another monster day and a monster.
And you should play Kyler as well. Yep. I almost put him as my boom quarterback, but you should definitely play Kyler this week.
Yeah.
I have Michael Pittman. He missed the week 2 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's had back-to-back stinker weeks, but I think he's fully healthy now. And last year against the Jaguars, he averaged 16 fantasy points a game. I like looking at the divisional matchups. That tells you who's really good against divisional opponents, and Michael Pittman's one of those guys. So if you've been waiting for a Michael Pittman bounce back, if you've been putting him in your lineups and getting frustrated, I think this is the week that Michael Pittman can go out there and get you a really nice boom week. The Jaguars are still not a good defense. They're not a good football team. I'm not believing in the Jaguars. I think they're better, but they're not good. So play Michael Pittman.
Just real quick, I was thinking about putting Pittman as well, but the guy I do really like in this matchup is Alec Pierce. If you're in a deeper league, I think he's a good start this week.
All right. You may hear about him a little bit later in the show. Who's your second wide receiver boom of the week?
Here I got Chris Godwin. Look, the injury sucked. He's been lingered by a hamstring. But in the last 2 games, he's got 16 targets and 120 yards. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but he's been very solid as a player.
Not many Bucs have found the end zone. They've only scored, I think, 5 touchdowns on the year. They haven't. And I'm pretty sure
4 of them, four of the passing touchdowns, I'm pretty sure have gone to Mike Evans. So Evans is still seeing a good slew of production. Godwin, he's had the injury, he's been hindered, but 16 targets, 120 yards. He's been very solid. I think he had back-to-back 12-point games, but he just hasn't found the end zone. He just hasn't had that boom that you would like to see. But now he's going up against Pittsburgh, who has allowed the most points to fantasy wide receivers. Tom Brady's going to absolutely slaughter this defense, just like Josh Allen did a week ago. And he's destined for a great game. If he finds the end zone, he's putting up a 20-point game, which more than deserves to be a lock in your lineup. He should be a lock for the rest of the year, but just in case you were hesitant from solid performances, this is the week he should have the big boom.
I have Gabriel Davis. Nick, do you remember Gabriel Davis's stat line the last time he faced the Kansas City Chiefs?
4 touchdowns in a Super Bowl.
Well,
or no, playoff game.
Playoff game. Yeah. 8 receptions, 200 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Last week, he had 32 fantasy points. He had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now the thing is, if Kansas City's defense had gotten better, I would be a little bit more hesitant. But the Chiefs are giving up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. They lost Honey Badger. This has to be a shootout game. This has to be offense on top of offense in the 4:30 slot, which is still ridiculous to me. This isn't the Sunday night game. That's absurd by the NFL scheduling committee. Play your Bills this week. This is a Bills week. This is the week to play your Bills. So play Gabriel Davis. Okay, Nick. Who's your first flex spot? I've already told you Raheem Mostert is in mine. So who's your first flex spot?
I hate to say it, and this might be my take of the year. And I'm going to say it might be my take of the year because this is a guy I said he sucked. It's not worth playing him because of his situation. And this is the first week where...
Oh, it's Miles Sanders.
No, it's not. It's a player that I've had on the all bust team for 3, maybe 4 of the first 5 weeks.
Oh, it's not DJ
And now
Moore.
I'm putting him on the all boom. It is DJ Moore.
Oh, no.
He has not looked good, but...
Look who's throwing him the ball.
Hold on. Get ready for the stats because I had to dig deep for this one, which is why I say it might be my take of the year. First off, Baker's been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think it's deniable at this point. I think it's very arguable that if it wasn't for his ego and his personality, he would be a backup based off his skill level.
Is he worse than Russell Wilson?
Yes, he's definitely worse than Russell Wilson. It's not even comparable.
I don't know.
So this week, they are rolling out XFL superstar MVP PJ Walker, who was not great last year. And he is a backup quarterback. But let me tell you the stats that he had last year with DJ Moore. In the 5 games that he played, DJ Moore saw 45 targets and 400 yards. That's an insane amount of workload. Now, on top of that, he is going to... Hold on, let me pull up the matchup because I thought I had it written down here. But it's a very favorable matchup or a more than favorable matchup for him. Let me see if Nick can pull it up faster than I can.
He's facing the Rams. He's facing Rams.
Yes, that's right. He's facing the Rams, who have allowed the 3rd most points to opposing fantasy wide receivers. And if you actually have been watching, the wide receiver 1 has been cooking Jalen Ramsey week after week after week. It's been Stephon Diggs. It's been Marquise Brown. It's been some of those top receivers that have been absolutely slaughtering him in that secondary. So, DJ Moore. Last year with this guy, 9 targets a game, 400 yards, averages out to about 80 yards a game. DJ Moore is expected. If it's going to be a breakout and we're going to say this is Baker Mayfield's problem, here's the game to do it. Don't be scared of the Jalen Ramsey matchup. Don't be scared of the backup quarterback. This is actually the best matchup where I think he's had all year long. I think he has an upside for a 100-yard game and a touchdown.
You know what? I respect all the stats there. I do. It's a tough pull, but I do. I have Jeff Wilson as my second flex since Mostert is my first. The Falcons are giving up the 12th most fantasy points to running backs. Just last week, playoff Lenny had 20 plus fantasy points. And for Jeff Wilson, he's had 4 straight weeks with double digits. The only time he didn't was week 1 when he wasn't starting because of Elijah Mitchell. I think he had 20 fantasy points last week. So I wish he got more looks in the red zone, but that's okay. He's just a beast. That's the nature of it. He's a volume machine, and they like him over there. So play Elijah Mitchell. Play Jeff Wilson. Who is your second flex?
We talked about him a little bit earlier in the injury segment, and I gave Nick a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it's Eno Benjamin. He has a great matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, as I've been talking about for three of these players already, and I hate using the same guys from the same matchups, but I'm just saying play him because it's a shootout. It's a high over-under. It's destined to be. And Eno Benjamin actually looked pretty good last year or this past week without James Conner. When James Conner exited early, it was either 2 or 3 weeks ago, Eno Benjamin saw 100% of the snap share after that. That's impressive for a running back that is a backup, virtually a backup. You saw him Alexander Madison type role when Dalvin Cook misses. So now he gets to go up against Seattle, who is absolutely horrendous to the running back position as well.
They're bad.
They are really bad. It is time to play, Benjamin. Do I like him against Philly last week? No. Do I like him against Seattle, where you play your backup running backs in good matchups? Lock him in. There's not a lot of running backs that should outscore him this week.
So I have another Cardinal. I have Zach Ertz because the Seattle Seahawks allow the most fantasy points to tight ends, and Zach Ertz is over double digits every single week. I don't know how many tight ends have actually had over double-digit fantasy points every single week. I mean, it's got to just be like Kelsey and Mark Andrews at this point, I would think. I
think Kelsey even had a week under. Andrews did too. Andrews had a bad week against the Jets.
Hawkinson maybe like he could.
Hawkinson didn't either.
Did Higbee? No, Higbee had one under 10 week 1. I mean, let's check out Kelsey. Kelsey's gone over double digits each week, and Mark Andrews had one bad week against Buffalo, and Hawkinson's had multiple under. So, yeah, start Zach Ertz. He's reliable, really great matchup. Like, there's nothing more for me to say. This is the week to start Zach Ertz. I'm gonna retract that statement. I mean, I guess you're starting him every week, but if you have a tough decision to make, play Zach Ertz. You have a tight end, right? I think
yes,
so.
I
do.
So
who's your tight end?
I got David Njoku, someone I think both of us were pretty low on.
Oh, man, Nick has a Brown.
I do have a Brown. I've had Amari Cooper a couple times, so I can say I've had a couple.
Nick's a big Browns guy. Those of you that don't know,
Browns.
When the Browns win a Super Bowl, Nick's going to parade around in a Browns jersey of my choice. It's going to be wonderful.
Me and Nick have a long-lasting bet of who wins the Super Bowl first, the Jets or the Browns.
And this bet may go until we're both like 80.
We may never see one.
We're gonna be in a retirement home. I'm gonna be like, "Hey Nick, here's your Browns jersey." He's gonna put it over his face, whatever they're called.
The paper bag.
No, the like when you're old and you can't breathe.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
you don't need like an oxygen. You're gonna have an oxygen tank when we're 80 years old in a retirement home. You're gonna pull your jersey over it. Wearing your nice
let's get into some David Njoku talk. Last 3 games when they actually started utilizing him, 23 targets, 230 yards, and a touchdown. I think the Browns are playing from behind against Belichick. I think that they're going to need David Njoku to thrive in this matchup. I think he's been the focal point of the offense for the last 3 weeks. He's averaging a little over 16 points per game over those last 3. I think you need to lock him in for the rest, at least for now, until you start seeing some decline.
All right, let's go to our Week 6 all bust teams. Nick, I think I'll kick things off. I got Mr. Limited. He's going to be very limited for your fantasy football team. He's limited with a shoulder injury. He's limited with Nathaniel Hackett as his head coach. He really misses Pete Carroll. And the talk around the league is actually hilarious with him right now, with all the Seahawks players talking about him. Just a little snippet. Beast Mode went on Sherman's podcast and actually said nice stuff about Russell Wilson and said that he wants to give him a call and check in on his mentals. KJ Wright then said that he, on some Seattle radio show, he said that he had trouble connecting with Russell Wilson on a deeper level where they'd be, I don't know, after a game in the ice baths and he'd talk about life stuff and Russ would give him almost like reporter responses back. He's a robot. Anyway, I'm surprised he could take an ice bath. He's going to be limited. The team looks horrendous. Russell Wilson's been horrendous. He's been a bottom 15 fantasy quarterback this year. Guys that have been better have included Geno Smith, Jared Goff. I think Zeppi's been better than him. So anyway, put Russell Wilson on your bench. I'm benching him for Joe Burrow and crap. I have to play him this week because Derek Carr's my backup. That sucks for me. Oh, well. Who's your quarterback bust of the week?
Just real quick on yours. I don't want to say I dislike the take, but I almost put him on my old boom. I do have to warn you of that. So
that's fine, but I mean, just I see negatives across the board. Until I see him actually have a good game against a good team, I can't trust him.
I also saw a great quote from Nick Wright where he said, "I'm not a doctor like Jerry Jones or that Dolphins guy, but does a shoulder injury really affect your inability to make a smart decision on the football field?" So the Russ slander has been real on this podcast from 2 guys that actually love him a lot.
The thing is, he's not making smart decisions. That's the most frustrating part about Russell Wilson right now is he's not even making smart decisions. I think that's the bigger problem with Russell Wilson at the moment.
So my quarterbacks, shockingly, and I'm surprised I'm saying this because I didn't think I'd bust them all year, but it's the guy on the other side of the football. I'm going with Justin Herbert this week.
I thought about it. I came really close to doing it.
It's just not a good fantasy matchup. And Herbert hasn't been the second overall pick that you took him to be. Or the second pick at quarterback He hasn't boomed at all. He's a QB 8. He hasn't eclipsed 24 points all season, which I know is a high benchmark, but for a guy you took second overall, when you see guys like Jalen Hurts putting up 30, Josh Allen putting up 40, Mahomes putting up 40, like you got to be disappointed that you took him that early. And on top of that, since the rib injury, he's only averaging 16 points per game. So the decline came right after that big hit in that Kansas City matchup. And now they go up against Denver, who has one of the best pass rushes when they have one of the most unhealthy offensive lines. It's a awful matchup for just about every single one of those Chargers. I'm not saying bench him because you did draft him too early. There is a lot of talent there, but man, you should really have those expectations tempered for this one.
Would you bench him for Geno?
I thought about it. I don't think I would because I do trust Herbert's talent more. But like if he outscored him at the end of the week, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, next week, when they get to host Seattle, now that's a Justin Herbert QB5 type of week, top 5 week.
Yep.
That's a lock.
He'll be on one of our all boom teams.
Oh, yeah.
My first running back bust is Nick Chubb, who, has he been the best running back in fantasy football so far? If not, he's top
RB1,
3.
I think. He's top 3.
RB2 behind Austin Eckler. He's been great. And when I put a star like this on my bust category, I'm not telling you to bench him. I'm telling you to temper your expectations, and here's why. The New England Patriots are the 6th best team against the running backs. Nick Chubb does not average a lot of receptions. Bill Belichick takes away the number 1 weapon on an opposing team. So if I'm Bill Belichick, why are you not loading the box up against Nick Chubb and forcing your former quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, to throw the ball? That's what I foresee in this game happening. Nick Chubb, he's a freak. Like, he's great. I'm not saying he's not going to have a good game, but I don't think he's going to have that 20-plus game that he's been having. I don't think he's going to have 2 touchdowns. I don't think he has 100 yards. I could see him having like 40 yards and a touchdown. That's still a 10-point game, but I don't think he's getting you past 15 fantasy points is where I'm coming from a bust standpoint. Who is your second running back bust?
Oh, well,
you do running back. Yeah, we're out of order. Who's your first running back bust?
My first is Alvin Kamara. He played incredibly well last week when they hosted Seattle, but he's kind of been – Seattle's been horrendous at the running back position, and in the games where Alvin Kamara's played, he missed 2 games. He's only averaging like 7.5 points, and I don't think he eclipsed Aiden either, though. So he has not been good, and he looked great against Seattle. Is he going to look good against Cincinnati, who – is sneakily having one of the best defensive seasons in football at the moment?
They haven't allowed a touchdown in the second half of any game.
They currently rank number 3 against the running back position, and there's a very good shot that Jameis Winston comes back. And I can't remember a single great game that Kamara had with Jameis running the helm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's like his dominating factors have been with guys like Andy Dalton and Drew Brees, who just consistently check down to the running back. But that's not Winston. Winston goes, fuck it, somebody down there somewhere, whether it's on my team or the other team. Like that's Jameis Winston's play style.
But that's why he's so excited. He's electric. He's electric.
He is electric. We do love Jabu over here, but we don't love this Alvin Kamara matchup.
All right. My second running back bust. Nick's going to be very proud of me. I have Miles Sanders.
Good job. Good man.
Now here's the thing. Miles Sanders has proved me wrong on the season, but he's facing the Cowboys defense. 5th best defense against the run. They've been terrific. They've been a top 5 NFL defense on the season. Miles Sanders only had 8.5 points in 1 game against Dallas last year, and the defense has gotten better. So I don't foresee this being a big Miles Sanders game. This is one that I'm telling you, actually, you should bench. You should have some running back depth. If you have a guy like Melvin Gordon or Raheem Mostert, I would play both. Benjamin. Like I'd play all 3 of those guys over Miles Sanders this week.
Completely agree. Just real quick, I got to give you a funny piece of breaking news I got. Cooper Kupp is listed as limited in practice with a foot injury. He said the issue surfaced when he caught a short pass and turned it into a 75-yard touchdown. So just a funny notification that we get.
By the way, Cooper Kupp's going to be fine. Like McVay said that Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and Higbee are going to be limited all week, and they'll be fine for game day. So don't worry about those. Your second
running back is a guy I've been very high on. A guy I was very high on before the year. The 2 of us were high on him because of how good he looked off workload, but this team ain't making up for the workload that he's getting. It's Najee Harris, and I hate to say it because I do love Najee. I think
the only reason I didn't bust him was because I busted him last week. And I don't. Do you have the Tomlin note in here about his comment about the other running back?
No.
He said Jaylen Warren looks really good and he's going to keep playing him more. Like, there's a quote from Mike Tomlin like 4 days ago. So
Warren has actually looked very good. I saw numbers about his efficiency.
I'll say this right now. If you have a spot on your bench, go grab Jaylen Warren before next week.
Yeah, just in case he does take over.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it really hasn't been Najee. It's been lackluster quarterback play, tough defensive matchups, and the worst offensive line in football. Like, to be quite short, there's about 5 teams in football that have like elite front sevens. It's like Buffalo, they played last week. It's, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Rams, and then of course we have the team that they are playing against this week, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, horrendous matchup for him. Not going to be pleasant for Najee owners. Not going to be pleasant after today. If we do see Najee outwork Jaylen Warren this week, I do think he's an excellent trade for candidate because, like, it's going to be a lot harder than to have this situation, right? Like, rookie quarterback, back-to-back starts, Buffalo, Tampa. Like, that's literally my Super Bowl prediction from before the year. There could have been no 2 worse games to start your career off with, and he kind of just got it.
It's bad.
It has not been good.
My first wide receiver bust is CeeDee Lamb. The Philadelphia defense is a nightmare. And the game's in Philly, by the way. This is hostile territory. Cooper Rush has not been good for his receivers. He's been good for the Cowboys. He hasn't been good for his receivers or his tight end. That's very droppable at the moment. Philly corners are legit. And CeeDee Lamb only had 10 fantasy points against the Rams. So I don't foresee him getting any more than 10 against the Eagles. So with that said, that's a bust to me for a guy you drafted in round 2. I think I'd still play him, but really temper those expectations for CeeDee Lamb. Who was your second, your first wide receiver bust, I should say? We're out of order. It's throwing me off.
I could go back-to-back receiver if you need.
No, we could do it. It's fine.
I hate saying it, but I dug myself a hole last year and I lost on it. Like, I lost on Saquon this year. I lost on this guy last year. And I've been down on his whole team this year.
Oh,
Jamar Chase. You might have been expecting me to say T. Higgins, but it's Jamar Chase.
Higgins might not play, so I'm actually higher on Chase if Higgins isn't on the field.
Oh, well, when Higgins wasn't on the field against the Jets, it was Tyler Boyd that benefited. It was like Hayden Hurst is seeing touchdown usage. Joe Mixon has benefited. Like, it really hasn't been Chase. And for 4 consecutive games, the guy you drafted at the back end of the first round hasn't eclipsed 13 fantasy points. According to ESPN has like a metric for boom bust, like based off where you drafted him, their talent, what you should expect on a week-to-week basis. What's a bust game? What's a boom game? And Jamar Chase has those 4 weeks as bust because of how high the potential is for him and what you expect to him from week-to-week basis. Like, we expected those big touchdowns all year long, but that offensive line, like, couldn't stop a thing. They couldn't stop 5 toddlers from rushing that quarterback over there. And, of course, now he gets who worse than Marshawn Lattimore to go up against. Now, I said there's 5 elite front sevens. The Saints aren't an elite front seven, but they do have elite edge rushers over there, and those guys are going to haunt Joe Burrow and that offensive line all night. You're obviously not benching him, right? Like, you can't. He's had 5 games over 10 points, but he hasn't boomed. I don't think he's booming. I think he's going to stay under that 12-point threshold this week.
All right. My second wide receiver bust is a guy, I boomed him a couple times. I have Mike Williams. Last year against the Denver defense, he only averaged 11 fantasy points over 2 games. This year, the Denver defense is number 1 against the wide receivers. They have one really good corner. Is it Patrick Surtain? I think they have one really good corner that's been graded very highly by Pro Football Focus. So Keenan Allen's also coming back. Joshua Palmer's there. They've been running the ball a lot. I think this game could be a lot lower scoring than people think it could be. Again, temper expectations. I don't think he's getting you over 15 fantasy points. I don't think he's getting you over 12 fantasy points. So again, that's why I'm busting Mike Williams. All right. Who is your second wide receiver bust on the week?
I am going with one of those Packers guys, someone that we've been hyping up for a little while now. I'm going with Romeo Doubs. Last week against the Giants, he got held to 5 points. And who does he get this week? The better New York team, the New York Jets, man. Mr. Pepsi Soda Rookie of the Week, Dr. Clamps Sauce Gardner, it's over. It's over. Romeo Doubs is getting clamped by the rookie. Rodgers, you're going to struggle. Dobbs, you're going to struggle. I know I got Aaron Jones running this week, but you're going to struggle because those Jets are elite. They're walking into Lambeau. They're getting that upset win. They're going to walk out 4-2, and those Packers are going to struggle. And Romeo Doubs, rookie little X factor, guess what? My rookie's better. My rookie is clamping you down. And Nick, you have every right to clip this if Dobbs winds up cooking sauce, but it ain't going to happen.
I have the Packers plus, minus 6.5 on my spread pool. I'm not taking the Packers in my survivor, so I really actually do hope the Jets win. That would knock a lot of bodies out of my survivor pool. So you know what? I'm all in on the Jets this Sunday. But if you're asking for my football take, it's going to be angry Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, which just isn't good. So my first flex bust, I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster, who was on my boom team last week and did not boom. He hasn't been what we expected him to be, and I was low on him before the season in my preseason rankings. Then as the drafts crept up, I got higher on him, didn't get him anywhere and was upset. And now I remember why I didn't really want Juju in any leagues to begin with. The Bills are the 5th best team against wide receivers, and Juju hasn't had a breakout game yet. I can't imagine him having a breakout game against the Bills. Maybe, but I would have no confidence playing Juju at this point when there's so many other wide receivers out there that are booming and that are playing well. Why go with Juju?
I completely agree with that. I wanted to put Juju on the all bust, and I started making the take. I scrolled down and I said, "Oh shit, Nick already stole him from me."
You could jump on some points. I've done it with you before.
He's ranked the wide receiver 50 in football. If we changed his name to McCole Hardman and showed you the stats, you would say he's not rosterable.
Yeah.
It is kind of just off the name Juju, and
it's off the name, and the name Juju is really based off one season out of 4 or 5. So
yeah, and it was a monster year, right? He exceeded Antonio Brown. He had 1,500 receiving yards a year. Well deserved for him to have the name.
At least with DJ Moore's name, he's had 1,200 scrimmage yards each of the last 3 years, and nobody else has done that.
And he had 170 targets last year, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't roster Juju because the talent is still there and he is very good, but I wouldn't drop him. But he is at the point where
he has to ride your bench. He has to stay on your bench until he shows you something. So, so who is your first flex bust of the week?
I have Devontae Smith here, and he's been one of the biggest boom bust quarterbacks, or wide receivers in football. So he has 2 matchups where he's sub 5 points and 3 matchups where he's over 15. So that's a big gaping hole right in the middle, which he hasn't hit yet. That's where I'd probably predict him to finish, somewhere between 4 and 14 this week. That's the line I think he's going to get. And guess who the Eagles have? Their toughest defensive matchup of the year in the Dallas Cowboys. I think the formula for the Eagles to leave with a win is going to be manage that clock. I know you don't like Miles Sanders on the week. I don't like him any week. But I do think they're going to play a lot of clock management. I think they are going to be playing check down, take advantage of that Trayvon Diggs, A.J. Brown matchup. I think that's going to be the way they walk out of this game with a win. And I just, Devontae Smith, does he have high upside? Yes, he has. He's shown it 3 weeks, but he also showed such a low floor where I do justify benching him even off of a 30-point game.
All right. My second bust of the week is Tyler Lockett. I know you think this game's going to be a shootout, but the Cardinals are actually the 6th best team against wide receivers. And the Tyler Lockett formula throughout his entire career has been a model of inconsistency in terms of being a statistics wide receiver. Now, this year, he's been pretty good. He has been inconsistent. He has over double-digit fantasy points the last 4 weeks. Maybe it was a Russell Wilson problem when it comes to inconsistency, but I'm not giddy to play Tyler Lockett in a game that he's facing a tough defense. DK's still the alpha over there. I'd play DK, but I wouldn't be super duper giddy to play Tyler Lockett. I could see this being the game he comes back to reality and has a sub 10 point threshold for fantasy points.
I think that's fair.
And what's your second bust? By the way, I have the game on my TV over there. And Fields has been sacked 2 or 3 times already on the first drive. I don't think I got the football team's defense anywhere in my leagues, but I did want to play them tonight.
I do. I have them in 2 leagues starting.
There you go.
So thank you for the info. I have Drake London, and Drake London he's actually been very good. He looks like a great football player.
I was going to bust him, but I busted him last week, and I don't want to double down.
he's got a great future, but his quarterback sucks. His Mariota has sucked. Since Cordell Patterson left due to his injury, the team has not been able to get the ball down the field. Over that 3-game span, he has 9 catches for less than 100 yards. He had a touchdown 3 weeks ago, which kind of bailed him out of a bad game. But no, they're not getting the ball down the field anymore. They're not getting in that scoring range. The only way he's going to find a touchdown is if Jimmy Garoppolo gives 3 turnovers. Now, that is more than possible. Do not get me wrong, but they're not going to get the yardage. Like Arthur Smith has actually been very good as a coach in getting the ball to the opposing side of the field. It's not going to happen against the 49ers. That's such a bad matchup for them. I don't trust him this week. I think it's time to put him on your bench. Let him ride there until he gets a little bit hotter. It's kind of the preseason concern we had for London.
I have his running mate, Kyle Pitts, who's had a horrendous start to the season. He's only had 1 game over double digits, and now he's coming off a hamstring injury, so that's not great. And facing the 49ers defense, that has been the best, the number 1 against tight ends. That's a recipe for disaster. I just traded for Kyle Pitts. I'm not excited to play him this week. I would play him next week. I don't know who the Falcons are facing, but I'll play them next week because it's not the 49ers. So I would not play Kyle Pitts this week if you have a backup that has a nice option.
Everybody's got to take a little bit of a deep breath about this guy. Taysom Hill, yes, he's got big upside, but he's also got very very low floor. I love the idea of playing him in fantasy. I love he feels like Kyle Pitts to me in the sense of he's either going to give you 0 to 2 points or he's going to go give you a 20 to 40 point game winning week. So I love that idea if you have one of those iffy tight ends, but the tight end positions been pretty solid for fantasy football. Like Zach Ertz, you talked about, like 5 straight games of 10 plus points. Like Dallas Goedert, all those mid-level tight ends. Outside of in the top 10, there's really only been 2 like distinct busts so far, and Dalton Schultz, who's had it due to injury, and Kyle Pitts, who we agree, like Atlanta can't get the ball down the field with that quarterback and that offense. Like it's not working over there. And Taysom Hill, I love the idea of playing him, but there's better plays out there. He's had the 2 very good games. He had 1 terrible game, and he had 1 game with 8 points, which is, not bad for tight end, but not great. I love the idea of the upside. I don't love the idea of playing him against Cincinnati because, listen, he is listed as a tight end. Cincinnati has allowed the 23rd most points to the tight end, but Taysom Hill has 1 catch all year. He's playing like a running back. That's where his points are coming. And as I said earlier about Alvin Kamara, Cincinnati ranks number 3 against the running back position. So I do think there's a lot of cons of playing him in this matchup, but I do love the idea of playing him.
All right. Now time for flex on him. We go through each game, pick 1 player from each side, and we tell you which one we'd rather play in our flex spot. Rapid fire style. We mostly try to get guys that would be a flex player. So 49ers at the Falcons, Brandon Ayuk or Drake London.
I just told you why I wouldn't play London. I don't love Ayuk most weeks, but up against Atlanta, I feel like you have to lock him in.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. This also could be the George Kittle outcoming week for 2022. Patriots at the Browns, Jacoby Myers or Amari Cooper.
Bill Belichick knows how to lock down his former quarterbacks. Maybe not Tom Brady, but he'll know Jacoby Brissett. So I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers. Yeah,
I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers as well. Browns haven't been great against the pass. And on top of that, Jacoby Myers just had like 25 fantasy points. And he's been good this season when healthy. Here we have Elijah Moore or Romeo Doubs, Jets going to Lambeau Field.
Elijah Moore has not been good for fantasy so far. Like he's worth, there's better players probably on your waiver wire in small bench leagues. But I don't love Dobbs' matchup. I do think Elijah Moore is going to click at some point. I would edge Dobbs here, but like if I actually had the choice, I'd play Dobbs because I've seen it for weeks of 8 targets. But like that would be who I would actually start. But I think I'd rather take a flyer on Moore. So I'll start Dobbs to be.
I would start Dobbs here. Christian Kirk or Alec Pierce, the Jags at the Colts.
Christian Kirk against the Colts earlier this year put up 2 touchdowns in his biggest game.
He had 25 fantasy points. But since then, his points have decreased.
That's been the formula for success for them in the first matchup where they absolutely shattered them. I think they shut them out in the matchup. So
yeah, it was pretty bad.
I'll go with Kirk here.
I'll go with Kirk as well. Adam Thielen or Jalen Waddle, the Vikings traveling to Minnesota.
Wait, is the game in Minnesota or is it in Miami?
I'm sorry, it's in Miami.
I think Teddy Bridgewater is clear. So if Bridgewater or Tua is starting, I'll go with Waddle. If not, I'll go with Thielen. I think there's more touchdown upside without those two quarterbacks.
I think that's the right take. Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins, whichever one is starting as the wide receiver 2. Right now, it looks like Boyd or Chris Olave.
I'd go with Tyler Boyd if T. Higgins is out, which I do think he is going to miss the game.
I think he's going to be out as well, but I'll take Olave. Again, 5 straight weeks with double-digit fantasy points. Like until he shows me he can't do it, I'm going to keep playing him. He has earned a spot in your starting lineup as a rookie. J.K. Dobbins or any New York Giant.
I would take any New York Giant if his name is Saquon Barkley. If not, I'm taking
It's
J.K.
not Saquon Barkley.
Okay, then we're going
J.K. You know the point of this segment. I'll take J.K. Dobbins. Like, the Giants are a fun team. It's nice to see them winning and stuff, but
they're not good fantasy. It's like the New England Patriots.
Yeah, they're not good for fantasy, and there's nobody for this segment for the Giants. There's like 2 or 3 teams on here that this segment does not work for, and it's the Giants. It's one of them.
Yep.
Chris Godwin or Deontay Johnson. Really like this question.
I'd go with Godwin here. I already gave you all the things why. Yeah.
I'll go Godwin too, but Deontay Johnson still has the target share.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Exactly.
All right, going to the 4:00 games. You have 3 of those. Eno Benjamin or Kenneth Walker.
You gave me my matchup. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. If I have both of these, I think Kenneth Walker would be the play. I am a little worried about Eno Benjamin not being a 3-down back, where I think Kenneth Walker will outsnut whoever the guy behind him is.
See, I think Eno Benjamin is the 3-down back. They have Chase. They have Connor injured, and they also have, I think it's the other running back's injured too.
He's got some hyphen last name.
Yeah, they have another running back injured. So I'll play Eno Benjamin. By the way, I have Kenneth Walker against you in our league this week. It's basically a win or go home for me. I'm win or go home in that league at this point. DJ Moore or Allen Robinson?
Just gave you my DJ Moore best take of the year potential.
I'll agree with you on DJ Moore. Gabriel Davis or Juju Smith-Schuster in a game that should be the Sunday night game. It bugs me. I can't believe after that game they did not make this a Sunday night. You knew that these two teams are playing once over 17 weeks. I still can't believe that the scheduling committee did not put this as a Sunday night football. It's absurd to me.
I agree. I don't like either, but Nick points all the reasons.
Yep, come to Gabriel Davis.
If Juju outscores him, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would go with Gabe Davis.
And Sunday Night Football, Ezekiel Elliott or Miles Sanders.
God damn you for asking this question.
Oh, yeah, I'll play Zeke. I will play Zeke.
I would fucking play Miles Sanders.
Oh, man. Wow. All right.
Zeke sucks. He sucked so far.
All right. That was fun. That was fun. Hopefully we answered all your flex questions or all your questions. And if we didn't, that's why you join us Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time every Sunday, including this Sunday for week 6. YouTube, Facebook, Primetime Fantasy Podcast, Twitter, PrimeTimeFFPod. Want to answer all of your questions? Please join us. We're going to go from 8:30 probably to about 9:30 or 10, depending on how many questions we're going to ask. So hopefully you join us for that. It'll be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this episode and you're listening on an audio platform like Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. Share the show with your friends. We'd appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell to get notifications for whenever the Primetime Fantasy Podcast drops you an episode. Keep connecting with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, PrimetimeFFPod, Facebook, and YouTube, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Best of luck in week 6. We will see you Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Looking forward to it.